For my thoughts on all the latest happenings in the NFL in a completely relaxed, unscripted format, be sure to check out my channel, JG9 News. And now, on with our feature presentation. I think the greatest feel-good story right now in all of professional football has to be this man right here. This is San Antonio Brahmas head coach Wade Phillips of the United Football League. And he is so well respected amongst his peers that he is regarded by some as a legend. He is a defensive mastermind in many ways. He's turned around a ton of defenses. And as a head coach or defensive coordinator, his defenses have finished inside the top 10 in points allowed in the NFL a whopping 13 times. Everyone seems to love the guy, and at the age of 77, he is showing no signs of slowing down. The San Antonio Brahmas were led by Hines Ward as their head coach last season, and if you watched any Brahmas games in 2023, you know just how bad Ward was as a head coach, as he was completely out of his element and may have been the worst coach in the league. Phillips came in and took a team that was projected by everyone to come in last place in the XFL conference and was projected with the worst odds to win the UFL championship and has taken them to the final. If you're watching as of this video getting released, on Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern, the Brahmas will take on the Stallions for the UFL championship. And for the first time in his career as a head coach, Wade Phillips will be the main man in charge for a championship game. Seriously, Phillips has been coaching in some capacity since 1969, when man first landed on the moon. And this will be the first time that, as a head coach, he is in a championship game. After more than half a century and then some, Phillips will get that coveted moment he's been waiting for his entire life. It's a remarkable story and a remarkable journey. Speaking of journeys, we are on a journey here to try and get 60,000 subscribers and build the best football community on the platform to talk about all things NFL history all the time. So if you like that sort of stuff, be sure to hit that like button down below, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss a single video that we post. Thanks in advance for your support. However, when you've been a coach for that long and have never made it to a championship as a head coach, your career definitely had a lot of lows. And perhaps none of these lows were as low as this season right here, the 2000 season with the Buffalo Bills. Maybe you could say that the time he spent as a Dallas Cowboys head coach in 2010 was the lowest moment of his career as a head coach. I'm not going to argue with you too much on that. But Buffalo fans would strongly disagree, considering all the turmoil that the team faced that season, considering how far the team collapsed, and considering the incredibly high expectations that fans had for the team entering the new millennium. And topping it all off was something that Wade Phillips said and did that nearly a quarter century later deserves a deep dive for just how stupid, just how insane, and just how asinine it was. Because if ever the phrase "don't peel my leg and tell me it's raining" applies, it's for Wade Phillips and this very moment right here. Because this is the story behind the dumbest moment of Wade Phillips' long, storied, and illustrious coaching career, and the time that he basically lied to everyone. Before I talk about the bizarre controversy in question that left everyone scratching their heads because of how stupid it was, we need some context to understand how this team right here, the Buffalo Bills, were doing. The year is 2000, and it seems like we're heading down the home stretch with the Bills potentially looking like a playoff team. Through the first 12 weeks of the season, the Bills are sitting very favorably with a record of 7-4, having won 4 straight games, and looking like one of the hotter teams in football. This was nothing new for Buffalo, as this team was a playoff mainstay. They had made the playoffs in each of their first 2 seasons under Wade Phillips in 1998 and 1999, and had made it to the playoffs all but 2 times since 1988. So this 7-4 start past Thanksgiving was business as usual. By no means would it be easy for the Bills to get into the playoffs, seeing as there were 8 teams at 7-4 or better fighting for 6 spots, including 4 teams within their own division in the AFC East. But if the Bills could just do what they were supposed to do over the next few weeks and take care of business, then they'd be back in the playoffs for the 3rd straight season. However, as you can probably imagine based on this video, and as you can probably tell based on the highlights, or should I say lowlights if you're a Bills fan, That did not happen at all, because when it mattered most, Buffalo proceeded to get absolutely destroyed. I don't just mean that they lost games. I mean that they didn't even look the slightest bit competitive. They lost 31-17 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in a game where the offensive line looked like Swiss cheese, seeing as quarterback Rob Johnson was sacked 6 times. They followed that up with a poor performance against the Miami Dolphins, a drubbing where they lost 33-6, and a game where Miami led it 30-0 at the end of 3 quarters. The Bills had just 196 yards of offense for the entire game. To show how bad it was, Rob Johnson started the game under center, and he went 6 for 18, completing 33% of his passes with 18 net passing yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a passer rating of 2.8, which is worse than if he did nothing but spike the ball into the ground on every single play. And he was the better of the 2 quarterbacks, because when he was yanked for Doug Flutie, somehow, Flutie was even worse, going 2 for 9, completing 22% of his passes for 18 net passing yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception, 1 fumble, and a passer rating of 1.9. So yeah, that game was bad. And the following week, in front of a national television audience on Monday Night Football against the Indianapolis Colts, the Bills got blown out again, losing 44-20 in a game where the Colts scored 2 defensive touchdowns, and where Buffalo, without forcing a single turnover, ended up turning it over themselves 3 times. Everything about this stretch for Buffalo was ugly with a capital U, and their season was slipping away from them in rather disastrous fashion. So at this point, Buffalo was in a rather tumultuous position. After being 7-4 and having a really good chance to make it into the playoffs if they played their cards right, they were 7-7, and their season was completely slipping away from them, to the point where they needed to win out and hope for some help to make it in, as they no longer control their own destiny. Those days were done. Wade Phillips was already on somewhat of a hot seat entering 2000 if things went south, considering how 1999 ended and his complete botching of a lot of things there. If the Bills missed the playoffs after this collapse, he was toast. But now, this man right here, Wade Phillips, was going to meet with the press and completely lie to their faces and to the fans about how everything was fine. Phillips gave a vote of confidence to his offensive coordinator, Joe Pendry, despite the fact that the offense had scored just 100 points over its last 6 games, or roughly 16 points per game. That part was fine, seeing as you expect a guy to back his staff and not make any changes this late in the season. But in backing Pendry and backing the rest of the coaching staff and backing his team, Wade Phillips said that he didn't understand what the big deal was. Because guess what? The 2000 Buffalo Bills were better than the 1999 Buffalo Bills. Seriously, the 2000 team was, statistically speaking, better than the 1999 team. Said Phillips, in a statement that I cannot believe is true, you've got to look at it overall. Where we were last year and where we are this year is better. You can't dispute that as far as all the stats are concerned. In other words, the stats in 2000 were better than the stats in 1999. So there's no reason for people to act like the sky is falling, because this team is playing better than it was last year. And if you just look at the numbers, you'll see that. Now, yes, I agree that sometimes the win-loss record of a given team can be incredibly deceiving. For example, the Jacksonville Jaguars went 12-4 in 2005, and they went 11-5 in 2007. However, anyone with a working set of eyeballs will tell you that the 2007 team blew the 2005 team out of the water. The Jacksonville Jaguars went 10-6 in 2017, and I'm taking that team over the 2005 team 10 times out of 10. Heck, many people argue, including myself, that the 1973 Miami Dolphins were stronger than the 1972 Miami Dolphins, as in, the team that went 14-0 and finished the season undefeated. You get the idea. Just because one team might have a better record than another team in another year doesn't make them better. So even though the Bills were just 7-7 with 2 weeks to go in the disappointing 2000 season, and the best they could finish was 9-7, they were playing better than the 1999 team that went 11-5 and made it into the playoffs as a wild card. And all you had to do was, in the eyes of Wade Phillips, look at the stats and see it for yourself, because there was a noticeable improvement. For example, in 1999, the Buffalo Bills scored 320 points, meaning that they averaged 20 points per game. This ranks 16th in the NFL. In 2000, however, the Buffalo Bills improved on that total by scoring 315 points, meaning that they averaged 19.7 points per game, which ranked 20th in the NFL. Wait a second, that doesn't seem like improvement, does it? Am I going crazy? Phillips told me that the Bills were better across the board, but they're scoring fewer points per game and rank worse off compared to their peers. That's a bit odd, but whatever. That's just one stat. I'm sure I'm just cherry picking, and Phillips might make his point with the other stats that I might not see right now. For example, maybe they might not be scoring as much, but they're way smarter with the football. In 1999, the Bills put the ball on the ground 17 times. When you combine their interceptions thrown with their fumbles, you get 33, or roughly 2 per game. However, in 2000, to Phillips' credit, Buffalo was significantly cleaner in that department, because in 2000, the Bills put the ball on the ground 28 times, which, when combined with their interceptions thrown, gives you 38, or roughly 2.5 per game. Wait, but I thought that the Bills were better across the board as far as all of the stats were concerned. Seems to me like they're doing a worse job at holding onto the football, which seems like a pretty important stat. Okay, so maybe the offense isn't scoring as much as they did the year before. And maybe the offense is putting the ball on the ground and being more careless than they were the year before. But you know what? Maybe this is a boom or bust team. Maybe this is one of those teams that, when they get the ball, they have a good chance at scoring or just completely faltering. Almost like a true 3-outcome player in baseball. And to Wade Phillips' credit, the stats definitely reflect that. In 1999, the Bills scored on 30.5% of their drives, which ranked 12th in the entire NFL. In 2000, the Bills improved on that by scoring on 29% of their drives, ranking 20th in the entire NFL. But I thought, am I on the right planet here? The Bills are scoring fewer points than they did the previous year. The Bills are significantly less efficient on offense than they were the previous year. And the Bills are turning it over significantly more than they were the previous year. And Wade Phillips is out here saying that this is like opposite day, where bad is good, up is down, east is west, and wide right is dead center? But, okay, maybe I took his words out of context. Maybe he meant to say the defensive side of the ball. After all, that is his specialty, even though that wouldn't seem to make a whole lot of sense, seeing as he was defending his offensive coordinator with these comments, but maybe he was talking about the overall team. And to be fair to Wade Phillips, the stats absolutely reflect this defensive improvement, seeing as in 1999, the Bills had the second best defense in football from a points allowed standpoint, allowing just 14.3 points per game. And in 2000, the Bills somehow improved on that by finishing 18th in the league by allowing 21.9 points per... I'm sorry, what? By what freaking metric are the Bills better? By what freaking metric can you honestly say that the 2000 Bills are a better team than the 1999 Bills? The record isn't better. It's nowhere close. The offense isn't better. It's nowhere close. The defense isn't better. It's nowhere close. There is not one actual important metric where Buffalo is better in 2000 than they were in 1999. If anything, they've gotten worse in every single one. If I got a 75 on a test in algebra, and then I tell my parents when I get the next test back that I did better than I did on the last one, and my grade on that one is a not-so-nice 69, my parents are going to think that they raised an idiot, Because unless we're playing golf, there is no universe where a 69 is better than a 75. And obviously, I'm not saying that Wade Phillips had to go into his presser and bash everyone. I'm not saying that he had to act as though the sky was falling. Believe me, that is not at all what I'm trying to get across here. But at the very least, live in reality. For you to literally say that everything is better across the board, and all you have to do is look at the numbers to realize that, when literally all of the numbers disprove everything you're trying to say, makes me wonder if you have any idea how numbers work. Before you head to the unemployment line, maybe you should take a look at a different kind of line, with that line being a freaking number line. Do you think that 3rd and 3 is shorter than 3rd and 1? Come on! And again, it's not like I'm cherry-picking stats here. This is not some advanced analytic. This is basic stuff like yards and points and turnovers. And every single stat says that no, Wade Phillips, this team is not better. Every single metric says that no, Wade Phillips, you do not know how numbers work. Which, yeah, I don't even know what to say to that. I just don't. To the surprise of absolutely no one, the man who was in charge of this team behind me right here, Wade Phillips, was fired after the 2000 season. Buffalo ended that season with a disappointing 8-8 record, dropping 4 of their final 5 games to miss the playoffs for the first time since 1997. Wade Phillips would get another head coaching job a few years later with the Dallas Cowboys, and based on everything I could tell from that stint, he learned how numbers work, so better late than never, I suppose. After that 2000 season, though, with Buffalo, the Bills would embark on maybe their darkest period in franchise history, as from the end of that 2000 season until 2016, so a 17-year stretch, the Buffalo Bills never made it to the playoffs once. A far fall from grace, considering how successful they were in the 1990s. Like I said at the start of the video, don't pee on my leg and tell me that it's raining. Don't set the house on fire and tell me that it's Aurora Borealis. And that absolutely applies to the man you've been watching this whole time, none other than Wade Phillips himself, who thought that being worse across the board in everything meant that you were better. Because that makes sense. One writer for Pro Football Weekly said it best when he said, "Well, Wade, you can dispute it. Clearly, total yards are down, rushing yards are down, points per game are down, and the league rankings, the Bills are down. That's better? Apparently so. Apparently, in the eyes of Wade Phillips, it is so. Because in 2000, when it came to the supposed year-to-year improvement of the Buffalo Bills, clearly, Wade Phillips had no idea what to believe." Get your official Jaguar Gear 9 merchandise by going to jj9shop.com, and be sure to like and subscribe, as it really helps the channel out a lot. Join me every Wednesday night where we'll play NFL Trivia for cash prizes at 9 p.m. Eastern over on Twitch. To learn more about the history of college football, subscribe to Jaguar Gator 8. To learn more about the history of Major League Baseball, subscribe to Jaguar Gator 7. Also, special thanks to all of our Patreon supporters for helping out the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. See how you can become a patron and request future video topics in the description below.